On November 21st, 2019, a stainless steel truck unveiled in darkness promised to reinvent the very shape of the auto industry. Within days, 250,000 people put money down, certainty that Tesla could deliver the impossible. But as calendars slipped from 2021 to 2023, those expectations warped into tension. What happens when ambition collides with reality, and can radical innovation survive its own hype? Subscribe for more stories where disruption comes with a price. Within hours of the Cybertruck's reveal, the internet pulsed with speculation, memes, and debate. But beneath the headlines and viral clips, a different kind of response unfolded, measurable and almost clinical in its certainty. By the end of that first weekend, Tesla reported roughly 250,000 reservations. Each one represented a buyer willing to put down $100 sight unseen for a truck that looked nothing like anything on the road and promised performance numbers that stretched belief. Reservation tallies became a story in their own right. Tesla's updates tracked the surge: 146,000 by Friday night, 200,000 by Saturday, and 250,000 by Sunday. The numbers kept rising month after month as the story rippled outward. By 2021, Tesla's statements and industry tallies placed the total above 1 million, an unprecedented figure for any new vehicle, let alone one that had yet to reach a single customer. For those who reserved, the act was more than a transaction. It was a statement of faith in Tesla's ability to deliver the impossible, and a ticket to the front of a line that stretched around the globe. Online forums filled with order numbers, speculation about trim levels, and dreams of stainless steel in suburban driveways. The reservation system itself was simple, fully refundable, low risk, open to anyone with a credit card. But the commitment behind it was real. Each reservation added weight to the promise made on stage, turning hype into a kind of collective stake. As the reservation wave swelled, the pressure shifted from spectacle to substance. The numbers were no longer just a measure of excitement. They became a challenge to Tesla's engineering, its supply chain, and its credibility. With every new reservation, the scale of what was expected grew. The Cybertruck was no longer just a flash of innovation in a dark auditorium. It had become a shared bet on the future and a test of what happens when belief and reality are forced to meet. Production was supposed to begin in late 2021. That date, stamped onto early press releases and investor calls, became the first in a series of deadlines that quietly faded from view. As 2021 drew to a close, the calendar slipped. Tesla's supply and operations teams faced a global chip shortage that rippled across the entire auto industry. Semiconductor scarcity stalled not just Cybertruck, but every vehicle that depended on complex electronics. In quarterly earnings calls, executives named the constraint directly. There would be no Cybertruck that year. 2022 arrived with new expectations. The chip shortage eased, but another bottleneck took its place. The 4680 battery cell, a next-generation design promised to unlock greater range and lower costs, refused to scale. Inside the Texas Gigafactory, engineers struggled to coax high yields from experimental lines. Each setback with the battery rippled through the schedule, pushing volume production further out. Elon Musk acknowledged the issue on investor calls, linking Cybertruck's fate to the success of the 4680. The timeline slipped again, this time into the vague territory of late 2022, then quietly into 2023. As months passed, pressure mounted on manufacturing teams. The exoskeleton's ultra-hard 30X stainless steel, so central to the truck's identity, proved resistant to mass production. Standard stamping presses failed to shape the thick, rigid panels. Tesla invested in custom tooling and robotic forming, but the process moved slowly. In 2023, executives spoke of inventing a factory just to build the truck. Each new delay was explained in terse updates: first chips, then batteries, then steel. The original promise of late 2021 faded behind a string of revised targets. By November 2023, the first customer deliveries finally began. The journey from stage to driveway had stretched across 3 full years. For every calendar that flipped, a new cause surfaced: supply chain, battery, manufacturing complexity. The Cybertruck's schedule had not just slipped, it had unraveled under the weight of its own ambition. Inside the Texas Gigafactory, the challenge was not just assembling a new truck, it was learning how to shape a material that refused to cooperate. The Cybertruck's body panels, made from ultra-hard 30x cold-rolled stainless steel, proved too rigid for the stamping presses that define most automotive manufacturing. Conventional dies cracked or failed outright, unable to bend the thick sheets without warping or springback. Engineers, facing repeated failures, abandoned stamping and turned to alternatives: laser blanking sliced panels with precision, while robotic press brakes folded them into shape, one bend at a time. This approach demanded custom automation and slowed every step, but it was the only way to handle a material that resisted every shortcut. In early 2024, a week-long halt at Giga, Texas underscored the risks. Production lines stopped cold, costs mounted, and teams scrambled to reinforce panels with new adhesives and laser trims. The dream of a stainless exoskeleton forced Tesla to invent new methods on the fly, making every Cybertruck as much a product of engineering improvisation as design intent. On November 30th, 2023, the first Cybertrucks left the Texas Gigafactory, rolling out to early customers who had waited years for delivery. The trucks looked nearly identical to the prototype, with stainless steel panels, sharp geometry, and a presence that drew stares on city streets and highways alike. But as these vehicles met the real world, the gap between promise and reality became impossible to ignore. The tri-motor variant, once projected to exceed 500 miles on a single charge, arrived with an EPA-rated range of just 320 to 340 miles. In winter, owners reported even less, sometimes 250 miles or lower, depending on temperature and driving style. The base price, originally set at $39,900, had more than doubled, with Foundation Series models topping $100,000 and the lowest available trim hovering near $80,000. Social media filled with clips of panel misalignments, sharp edges, and missing software features. Within months, the first recalls were announced, addressing issues from drive inverters to loose trim. For many owners, the Cybertruck delivered speed and attention, but also a list of compromises that stood in stark contrast to the bold claims made 4 years earlier. While Tesla struggled to reinvent the way a truck could be built, rival automakers took a different approach. Ford, for example, leaned on decades of experience and existing factories to bring the F-150 Lightning to customers by mid-2022. The Lightning used conventional aluminum body panels and familiar assembly lines, allowing Ford to sidestep the need for new manufacturing techniques. Rivian's R1T, launched in 2021, followed a similar path: off-road, capable with steel and aluminum construction, proven battery technology, and a focus on capability. General Motors entered the market with the Silverado electric vehicle in 2024, again relying on established processes and supply chains. These choices meant fewer delays and more predictable outcomes. Customers could walk into a dealership and drive away in an electric truck that met published specs, with ranges between 300 and 400 miles and prices that, while not cheap, stayed closer to early promises. By the time the first Cybertrucks rolled out, thousands of F-150 Lightnings and Rivian R1Ts were already on the road. The radical design and factory challenges that defined the Cybertruck's journey stood in sharp contrast to the steady, incremental progress made by its competitors. Today, bold ideas hit harder walls than ever: regulation, expectation, and reality. As electric vehicles surge past 10% of new car sales in the United States, the line between vision and viability grows sharper. Disruption demands more than spectacle. It demands follow-through. Ambition changes everything, especially when it collides with the possible.